I've and with James Morrison, my wonderful friend. It's so good to see you, James.
Good to see you too. Thanks.
You know, we have to stop meeting on Zoom and actually take this to the real world.
Yes, in person.
And we have seen each other once in person since the pandemic started up in Ojai,
Yep, that was a great lunch.
and it was a wonderful lunch. And so you guys have not had COVID, thank God.
No, I haven't, but Riyadh and Seamus have.
Okay, now how did that
Okay, well,
happen?
I was gone. I was in Great Barrington doing the play, and they were supposed to come and see it on opening night. And um, you know what it's about Seamus's cancer journey and my journey through that and what I learned from it. So he had a shunt episode. He has a shunt that drains his spinal fluid, scientific explanation for you. But it malfunctioned, and so he had to stay and get a new one in while I was there doing the play about his brain cancer. And so
Wow.
they couldn't come, and then while they went in the hospital, they both got COVID.
Now, and what version, how long ago was that?
That was 22,
So they
uh,
had the Omicron thing
summer
probably.
of 22.
And how bad now Seamus was going through medical stuff, but he was already past his
Oh yeah, 12 years out then, or 13 years out. And also he was supposed to go to Middlebury, Vermont. That's what he was going to do. They were going to go to Great Barrington to see the play.
right.
God was going to take him to Middlebury, Vermont.
God?
Sorry,
Did you
Riyadh.
say I thought you said God. Now I know
No,
you don't believe in God, so that's a
I,
whole nother thing.
but I believe in Riyadh. Riyadh is my
You
God. So
you believe in
she was supposed to
Riyadh.
take him to Middlebury for a Spanish immersion for the summer. And so
Okay.
not only did he miss the play and get COVID and have to have his shunt replaced, but he also had to couldn't go to the Spanish immersion that
Oh,
summer. So he did it the next summer. So he got to do that. But it was intense going on stage to do that play while they were in the hospital, dealing with another episode of the residual effects of the brain cancer. It was intense.
oh God.
To say
So
the
okay, so
least.
now because he had had that experience, what was the COVID like for him?
Well, I wasn't here for that, so I don't know exactly. The other thing is that Riyadh couldn't be with him through that, and then uh, anybody who was in the hospital in those days, if they were in
R-
COVID,
Right, even though she had it as well. But well, so how did she get it?
she got it from him. He actually got it from the camp that he goes to, Camp Make a Dream in Montana. He didn't know
Okay.
he didn't know that he had it. Um, all this, the stars lined up in that evil way that they do sometimes.
Uh-huh.
And he got it when he came back, and then she got it from him, and then he had to go do the surgery to replace his shunt, and she couldn't be with him, and it
You
was
mean
a
they let him go in the hospital and do that even though he had COVID?
oh yeah, they had to. It
He
was a,
had
it was
to.
it was an emergency
I
brain
see.
surgery. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So
And they
and
just mask
how
him, they just mask him up, and everybody masks up, and they do what they have to do, and.
and how was it for Riyadh, the COVID?
It was bad, and she had some like you do, I think,
Has she?
yeah, some residual effects that what is it, long COVID, I guess.
How long did that last?
It,
Please
weeks.
don't say she still got
No,
it.
no, no, she's good. Seamus has had it twice.
Oh,
He got it, he's in school. He's at
right.
Pepperdine, so hanging with the, you know,
He's in
kids.
Pepperdine. He's at Pepperdine now,
Yeah,
did you say?
he's getting his master's.
Is that what? Okay, so for those who don't know the story of Seamus, can you give the
Oh yeah, I forgot we're being.
yeah, these are people
Forgot.
that we know. I know the story. People don't
Sure,
know the
yeah,
story, and he's
I
had quite a story.
you're so good at this, you made me forget that anybody was watching. It was just me and you. I thought the
It is,
world
it
isn't
isn't
bigger.
just me and you. It is just, yeah.
Seamus, my son, when he was 10 years old, had medulloblastoma, which is a really rare, but the most common, but extremely rare, 5 in a million kids, uh, brain tumor.
And
Uh,
how is this, how did this manifest? How did you discover this?
he started to, as we look back on it, we saw the signs, that you do, because you never go, oh yeah, he's walking differently. That must be a brain tumor, because you don't know. But as we look back on it, his gait changed, his
Mm.
coordination was affected, because it's the cerebellum, so it's your motor skills, fine motor skills and balance, and then he had a vision issue after the last baseball game of the season, and then he threw up the next day. So we took him in. Let's see,
How
that was
quickly was all that going on, Jane?
yeah.
Over what period of time was that?
Okay, so Sunday, that was the last game. He had the vision problem.
Hmm.
Monday, we took him in, called the ophthalmologist and
Hmm.
the neurologist because he
Hmm.
threw up that next morning.
Hmm.
Took him in Monday. The ophthalmologist saw pressure on the optic nerve from behind, sent us to get to the neurologist, and she checked his gait. So that's the same day. Next day, we got scanned. They saw something. The next
Hmm.
day, they scheduled the MRI. The next day, Thursday, he had the MRI. And said they saw the tumor. Friday, 9 hours of brain surgery. So it was 5 days.
Oh my gosh.
70,
And nothing prior to that. Well, you
yeah.
said his gait, you said prior to that.
Well, as we look back, we saw
Right.
signs. He quit tap dancing, and this
How
is all
uh-huh.
in the play.
Over over the course of how much time would you say?
So this was June from this was June that there was the surgery, June 9th. 2 months, and we as we looked back, we were able to go, that's we took him. He had headaches when he laughed. We took him to the pediatrician. He said, kids get headaches. We'll keep an eye
Mhm.
on it. No big deal. Then, I was his baseball coach, so he was an amazing baseball player, and his batting and throwing changed as I looked back. I didn't know what it was. I thought maybe it was he was losing interest in the game. I mean, I did,
Ah,
but he didn't know what was happening to his body. It was hindsight really helped us sort of diagnose, you know,
and was he scared through this? Was he concerned for himself? He's a little kid.
no,
No,
he,
kids are pretty fearless, yeah.
well, he was amazing. I mean, yeah, they are, and they just,
Hmm.
take it in stride. They're so happy. They're just like, okay, this is. He said at one point, I said, this man, the last couple of years of chemo and uh, it must have really been challenging. I mean, hard, man. And he said, no, no, it's just a transition. And I went,
Wow.
no, man. I mean, in my
Wow.
head, what? Because we don't process things like that. Transition. Um, and
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 what is your life? What's going on in your life at this time when he's going through? Are you working? Are you in the middle of something? Are you on hiatus? What are you doing
can I
there?
read the piece? Can I read this little piece?
Okay. Before you read the piece, James, I
Yeah,
just want to preface
because
this
that's going to
because
answer that question.
okay, good. I want you to do that.
Thank you.
I don't want to be a downer today. I want this to be about you and celebrating you, but I also want to acknowledge for everybody who's watching, and there are people who are watching who knew Christinna Guzman, and she was befallen today by cancer. And so this is very timely. And as I was explaining to you before we went on the air, I met Christinna because she came to Women Who Write, a place that celebrated artists and their art, and particularly the spoken word. And so when we were chatting before we came on the air, and I asked you if you would read a piece, and you said, yes, I have the perfect thing. And not only is it spoken word, something that we did at Women Who Write before the pandemic, but it's also about your son's cancer, which is what took Christinna. And so this, if you will allow me, I dedicate you and this day to Christinna Guzman, who um,
Absolutely.
I am going to miss terribly. And thank you for so James is going to share a brand new piece that no one's ever heard.
No, no, no. This is from the play. This is from
Oh, I thought you were going to share.
I,
Okay, I'm all confused now.
I will. Absolutely.
Okay,
That's,
but you're going to
oh,
share a piece from the play
well, because it
first.
answers your question. It answers
Excellent.
what were you doing at the time this happened?
Okay.
The play is 9 chapters, and this chapter is called An Utterly Ridiculous Side Note. Um, it interrupts actually the conversation that we just had about how it happened and the process.
Ah, perfect.
Okay. We live in pediatric intensive care post-surgery while I'm working on a TV series about a nurse in an urban medical facility in which I play the director of the hospital. I get up in the morning and leave our pallet on the floor in intensive care and go off to work on location in what used to be a functioning hospital and pretend to run the place. After work in the pretend hospital, I go home to the real hospital. Well, one day at work at the pretend hospital, I'm on the phone with Riad at the real hospital, getting lab results about whether Seamus's cancer has spread to his spinal fluid, which this cancer does, and it's really bad news. And I get the good news that it hasn't spread as I hear the director call action for the scene that I'm in. So I say goodbye, hang up, hide my phone, take a breath, and start the scene as though it's the only thing happening in the world. That is acting. As soon as the director calls cut, I rush to call Riad and our son's real doctor, and one of the actors who plays the doctor on the show stops me and says, James, what are you doing here, man? I don't know. Uh, Working? No, no, seriously, what are you doing here? And I don't know. I don't fucking know. I don't even know where here is. I know that I'm everywhere at once and nowhere at all, and that I am nothing. But out of nothing comes something. So I think about that. What do I know? I know now. I know now has never been more elusive or alive. I know I don't know what make believe is versus what is really happening. I am beyond pretending, but I must constantly act as if my realities have blurred. But I'm keeping it together. I'm keeping it together. I'm keeping it together. Well, one day during chemo treatment, Seamus smiles. You're a sixth grader as soon as step up is over. Yes, yes, you are, buddy. You're graduating to the 6th grade, and you didn't even really go to 5th grade. I'm so proud of you. It's been a tough couple of years, huh? No, it hasn't been tough. It's just a transition. A transition, he calls it. In his enlightened state, he tells me to embrace the inevitability of change. He wants me to leave my fears here. And in my primitive, fearful father state, I see that as hope. And that hope keeps my head above the murky, churning water I feel I'm drowning in. And it calms it, purifies it. It parts the clouds, brings the sun. It silences the voices of fear I hear at 3 a.m. Always 3 a.m. When I rise to keep watch, like my ancestors did before me, I enter a whole new level of empathy with my son. Something out of something. I can finally understand the language he speaks when he's asleep and dreaming, a groaning, gibberish response to a dream he's trapped in. A loon's cry through the steam fog rising from a lake. A wind-fed wildfire roaring through the pass and into the valley. Or the whistles, moans, and clicks of dolphins as they speak. That's
Oh,
really ridiculous
James.
side note.
Wow. Okay. So,
So the play is called Leave Your Fears Here, which is the reference
and,
to.
and how can we see, has it been filmed yet?
No, no, we didn't get a chance to film it when we were in Great Barrington. We will be doing it in Atlanta in April, and we'll hope to get a. But I'm not sure I'm ready to do I don't know, broadcast quality
Hmm.
thing yet. It needs to run for a while. It,
Uh-huh. I got
it wants
that.
it wants to be ready.
Are you going to do it again in Ojai?
I might do it at the Underground Exchange. I've been talking to Bernie and
I
Cassidy about.
hope you do, because we'll
Yeah,
be there. I would love to come and see you
yeah,
do
he's got
this
a nice
live.
new space, and he
There's a
invited me.
new space. Well, I was in a space about a year
Oh yeah,
ago.
he moved to actually to the space right next door. It's
Oh,
bigger and it's a proper theater venue now. It's really nice.
oh yeah, that was folding. The old one was folding chairs.
Yeah, he's got uh, permanent seating now, and
How wonderful.
yeah.
Some Barbara just said listening to James Morrison speak gives me chills.
Oh, nice.
Me as well, Barbara. Um, uh, oh well, I hope I get to see this live. And and I related to so much of what you were experiencing and the feelings that you were having, as I'm sure any parent can has in our own way through
Oh,
our own
sure. Yeah, yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
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 So you've lived to tell the tale. More importantly, Seamus has lived to tell the tale.
Yeah.
How
It,
long a journey was it for him, for you?
it took him, well, 2 years of chemo. So then he had to learn how to walk again. He lost the ability to walk,
And was
talk.
that because of the chemo?
No, it was the surgery.
It was the
There's a
surgery.
there's a condition called posterior fossa syndrome after that surgery on the
Boy,
brain.
didn't you? You're a doctor now. You could play one on TV, couldn't
I
you?
have played, yeah. In fact, I talk about that with a doctor in the show. We learned way too much about all this
Mm.
stuff. So he lost the ability to walk, talk, use his right hand, and he couldn't see for a while.
Oh,
Sometimes there are different symptoms. You can cause facial paralysis, which he's lucky he didn't have. It can paralyze muscles, swallowing muscles. One of the things the surgeon was grateful for when he started talking again was, or actually eating. He felt that he would start talking sooner because of the muscles weren't affected. But yeah, it was about 2 years of
oh
recovering.
my. And how how was he during that? I can only imagine what it was like for you and Riyadh. How was it for Seamus? Was he scared? Was he?
He had moments. He never showed any fear when he couldn't speak. He just took that in stride. I mean, he had we taught him some American Sign Language before he could talk when he was a baby. So
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
So he could say more and help me and milk and before he could speak. So he knew some of that. He could communicate. Thumbs up was a good one. How's everything? You know. But he didn't really show any fear. And of course, the radiation and chemo uh, does you in
Mhm.
as an adult. So you can imagine but he'd just go lay down and he'd just get tired and lay down. He was amazing, as they all are. Like you said, they're incredibly resilient, but they're also they have a different. They don't for some reason have that self-pity
Mhm.
mechanism or need to. I don't know. And we lived on 3 months in the Children's Hospital, LA. So we saw all these kids going through this on our floor in rehab. And at the time, it was the only hospital west of the Mississippi that provided that kind of rehab. So, we saw these kids just they were in recovery. They were sick and they were getting better. That was if we monitored how the doctors spoke about this, because they brought in the bad energy. They because they talked
Right.
to them they didn't use age appropriate language with them. They were downers, and several times
And
we had
also they're self-protective. Well, we're going to tell you the worst possible case scenario so you won't blame us if,
so
it
no
happens, right?
lawsuits and
Yeah.
but they just don't know. They don't know how to. What we discovered once. His school. We went to the Willows
Hmm.
school at the time
Hmm.
in Culver City, beautiful school, and they were so supportive. They were family. They were there with us, and they would always keep us surprised of how they were talking to his classmates about this. And they would say, we're trying to figure out how to what age appropriate language for these kids. What happened to Seamus and how he's going through this, and it's a challenge to
Hmm.
doctors didn't you know in rare cases, the therapists were great and the nurses were great, but the doctors for the most part were uh, kind of clumsy. So we had to keep on them about this. Don't bring that. That's why, Riad, where the title comes from, is that Riad put a sign up on the door, a paper bag that she wrote, "Leave your fears here," so that you didn't bring them into the room
Oh,
to infect him, basically. And we wanted to control the the language that all this was living in for him, and so we could control how he perceived it all. And I like to think that
that's
it happened.
beautiful.
Yeah,
How did you guys meet? I don't think I've ever asked you this before.
we met in a play, um, first day of rehearsal for a play called El Salvador
How
in
long
uh,
ago?
in 1998, 1988. So a long time.
And was that it? That
It was
day?
it. Yeah, it was it. Yeah, it was complicated at the time. I was in another relationship,
Hmm.
but it was we met. It was like, good to see you again. And that was it. There was no denying it, no turning back.
You
So we
know,
did it, and we ran for 8 months. It was a great success. And so we saw each other, it built through the run, yeah. It was wonderful.
y- I've gotten to watch you for the last 10 years or so and not together. I've never met Riyadh. I can't believe that. That's crazy. We have to
Yeah,
rectify
next time
that.
you're here, we'll make that happen. Yeah.
Absolutely. But I can tell just by the way you speak of her and all the projects that you do together, which we're going to talk about some of those in a minute. Um, but just the way you speak of her and there's a grace and a respect and there's just something very lovely about you too that I can tell from afar. Um, w- were you always like that in Is that just who you are in relationship, or is it you too? And what do you guys do something to keep that real? Because relationships take work. Even the best of
Yeah.
relationships take work.
Yeah. Um, I only laugh because, before I got sober, I was a
A
different.
dick?
It was kind of yeah. I was occasionally, yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I'm still making amends and living my amends for that. But I packed a lot into the 15 years that I was out there. So,
We're going to talk about that too. All right, but let's stay here for a minute.
but yeah,
So
I'm
you
just
you
saying
and
that
Riyadh. So
yeah,
how? Okay, so you had some sobriety. You had a few years. You had some years of recovery.
six
You had
six
about
years. Yeah,
you had 6 years of recovery. So you'd
when
been
we met.
working a program
Yeah,
and so you already had a modicum of grace happening in your life. But still, relationships, even in sober,
yeah.
are hard. They're challenging. Um, so how do you do it? What do you do?
Well,
Do you think?
you have to be willing, I think, to admit that you're wrong, first of all, when you're
Mhm.
wrong. And that takes humility. So it starts with humility, I think, and a willingness admit that, in my case anyway, I don't know. I think I probably speak for a few people when I say that this person that I fell in love with and was willing to uh, humble myself with, uh, saved my life. So
How so?
well, if you find that person that commands that kind of respect that makes you change how you view all relationships, not just that one, but I think they that the depth and um, weight of that responsibility changes how your perspective on everything. It's this. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, was it that way from the get-go, or did you grow into
Oh
that
yeah, yeah,
together?
yeah. It was
Hmm.
immediate.
Hmm.
Um, for instance, and I'm talking about events, life-altering events uh, that create poets. I mean, I talk about this in the play. Seamus is a poet, and he became a poet after his
Hmm.
cancer bout,
Hmm.
his recovery. But he wrote some before that, but he became a poet during that time. And I think when we're uh, the poetry, how poetry has always been there, we've just been waiting to meet it, and we meet it when an event like that occurs,
Hmm.
and it changes our perception of the world, and it changes how we behave in the world. It changes how we react to things. Just as that event, a cancer, a life-altering event of that magnitude. Uh, Now, when something happens, we'll say to each other, it's not brain cancer. You know how actors, when they're on the set and they start to get, this isn't cancer research. Well, what it's really not is it's not cancer. Cancer research, please, that's still, experimentation and
Right.
there's no life and death there. That's just work. So we have to, it changes our perspective and our perception.
I love what you said about admitting that you're being willing to admit that you're wrong. I heard this great thing last week that has been sort of life altering for me. A gentleman said that he has a mantra that he says every day, like 50 times a day. Um, I don't know. I need help. I might be wrong. And I've never heard that before. I've heard people say, you might be right. And to me, when you say to someone, you might be right, it's been used on me. And I can take that as a condescending sort of somebody's using their program on me and they're telling me I might be right because that's what their sponsor told them to say, but they
Mhm,
don't really mean it. But
mhm,
I might be wrong is always humble.
mhm.
There's always a humility there.
Right.
There's always some, right? So when you
You
said
might
that,
be
it was
right.
like, you might be right. But, just, I don't know. I need help. I might be wrong. And I think having that attitude through relationship, any relationship, all relationships can only be a help.
Oh, sure. And
Right.
you hear it in so many different contexts. You hear it in a learning environment. You hear, uh, uh, there's no place called I know. I heard that from my teacher when I was studying yoga to teach yoga. At the end of this thing, we took this test, and it was, just remember there's just no place called I know. You're always going to be, it's always coming in. It's always going to, you know, take the place of something else, something new. And then the other thing is when you really look at that, what kind of what kind of a willingness you have to be open to the possibility of being wrong, but also to the possibility of not knowing. I mean, not knowing and being able to admit, I don't know. It,
Amazing.
look what happens to you. Everything opens up, you know, you're suddenly you're all this information, there's room for,
And the big fear for me was always I had to know everything or people would think I was dumb, right? If I have to know everything, I thought, or I would look foolish or I would, but my great respect is for the person who says, I don't know.
I don't know.
Right away, I'm like, oh, wow, that's brave.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, that's what we heard in the rooms when we first came in. People, I used to call my sponsor and I'd say, "Man, I'm this is what I'm doing. This has happened. And what am I feeling? And I don't know. I don't know what and well, it sounds like anger. Sounds like anger. Really? Because of course it sounds oversimplified,
Mhm.
but when you come out of the fog and when you're experiencing things for the first time, and so one of the big things I heard coming into the rooms was, it's okay not to know. It's okay.
Mhm.
And I just went, wow, that takes a huge
We,
weight off
oh,
my shoulder.
yes. So
Yeah.
so let's talk about this. We've talked about it before, but we have new people with us today. So you're sober over 41 years now, yes?
Yeah, 42 in October. Yeah. 40,
42 years
41.
in October.
Yeah.
So, okay, what on earth possessed you to get sober so young? I mean, I was still experimenting for a long time. What, 28 you got
28. Yeah.
sober?
Yeah.
Now, were you so bad? Did you get in so much trouble? What happened to make you give it
Yeah.
up?
I grew up with it.
What was your drug of choice?
Alcohol, whatever
Mhm.
you had. I mean, they say, whatever you had.
Mhm.
Um, I tried everything.
Mhm.
And but I grew up with the disease. My
Mhm.
parents were alcoholics. They were
Mhm.
sober when they died. I got to go to meetings with my mom.
Oh my.
At a year sober. I was a year sober. They were, my bad dad was 20 years sober. My mom was 17 years sober. My
Wow.
mom was my dad wasn't active in the program, but my
Mhm.
mom really was.
Wow.
And
Did your mom get sober because of you? Did you show them the way?
oh no, 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 no. She was 17 years sober when I got sober.
She was 17 years sober when you got
Yeah. Oh
sober.
yeah. I was a year sober when she died. Not even a year sober when she died.
Oh, I heard that wrong. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact,
So you grew up kind of with the rooms, kind of, with all of that kind of around you.
well, not the rooms per se, because I didn't go to meetings with her.
Hmm.
And you know how they say about 12-stepping family members.
Hmm.
How she would do it would be, she left her book lying around and she talked about, oh, I had a great meeting. Or she would say, she'd call me up and say, Jim, I need you to go with me. I'm going to pick up a, a, a sick drunk and they're on the street. We got a call. We're
Oh,
going to go down
wow.
to Fourth Avenue in Anchorage. And I need you to go with me because he's probably going to, who knows? I can't handle it by myself. And you're strong and you can help me. And I go, oh God, okay. So we'd go down and we'd take him to the hospital and leave him. And then she'd say, "Where, honey, where can I take you?" And I say, "We just, I take me somewhere I can get a beer because that killed me, and I need a drink." And so, okay, just don't drive. Okay, honey, bye. You know, that was her way of showing me where I was going to end up. But she never said that.
Wow.
I walked away with that.
Was she in the sister program over there?
In
The
the,
People, Places, and Things program? Did she know to keep her hands
oh no,
off and
she was in Anchorage, so I don't know if
Mhm.
they had
That probably didn't even exist there, yeah.
whatever they called it up
Hmm.
there. Yeah,
Hmm.
and so I went, and I've only been to one Al-Anon meeting in my life, but I certainly
Hmm.
qualify.
Hmm.
It was the most amazing experience I've ever had.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, but what was the question?
So what got you to,
What
and
happened?
how did you hit what brought you to your knees? What got you to stop?
Um, I was doing a play with a guy who was sober,
Mhm.
and I was coming in talking to him before the show. We got to know each other and talking, and I finally I felt like, this is killing me. I can't do this. So I would talk about it with him, and one night he said, this is gonna. I would come in hungover from the night before, but I never drank before a show. But I'd be hungover, you know. And he said one night he said, this is gonna kill you, right? I said, yeah, yeah, I know, probably, yeah. He said, just your luck, it's gonna take you 50 years to die. And I just went, oh my God, man. I mean, it hit like a brick in the head. And I just went, I
The
can't.
right words at the right time kind of thing?
Yeah, but I mean, I just said, I can't. It was just the perfect thing to say. I can't live like that 50 years like this. Oh my God. And then I also was dating a person and I credit him with saving my life, but also her. Um, and before she kicked me out, and I had to, go live in my car. And I was newly sober. I was trying to stay sober. She said, you're abusing your gift.
Mm.
And that those two things I remember as being the things that uh, I needed to hear. So whatever, I just said,
But
well, what?
was there like a defining incident? Was there, okay, this is going to be my last drink, you didn't have a moment of,
No,
well, you had moments of clarity, but
those were the moments. Those were the things that I heard that I
did you
remember.
take a drink and say, okay, this is it, this is going to be my last?
I don't remember that. I know.
Hmm.
I just remember. Well, first of all, I quit drinking in June. I
Hmm.
quit drinking alcohol, and I and I'm 6 months of meetings, and I well, June, July, August, September, five months. I take an occasional Valium and take a hit of a pipe because but I thought, and I was going to the meetings and I thought, yeah, yeah, no, I'm not drinking. And so
Hmm.
and finally, I don't know what happened. I just went, wait a minute, I'm not, I think I heard in a meeting somebody say something. I'm not sober. So I called my sponsor and I said, I'm a liar. I'm a horrid man. I'm a dirty, rotten son of a, and he said, wait a minute. It, it's not that big a deal. We're not running a race here. Just change your sobriety date and pick up and raise your hand as a newcomer, and it's not a big deal. And so I did, and I mean, I had such broken perceivers, you know.
Hmm.
Not only was I not in touch with my feelings, and as an actor, how can you do that? I mean, I thought I was because I had a lot of them, but
Hmm.
they weren't real, you know. And every chance I got, I wanted to get numb,
So
you know.
let's talk about that. How did you discover that you had this gift, this acting gift? When did that become apparent to you?
Well, I think it's tied to my addiction, uh,
But
because
you were doing it long before that, right?
I was 18 when I started, but I was abusing drugs and alcohol then. I mean, from my first drink at 12 years old, 13,
Mhm.
whatever it was. It was
Right.
13. Um, I was drinking alcoholically, you know. So I I I uh I tied it together because I was looking for an alternative reality, I didn't like the one that was presented to me or the one that I was in. And make believe offered me a really great escape from it, same way drugs and alcohol did.
Hmm.
So I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the child's game of make believe. of it. And so I think that's all tied together. And then of course when I met Harry, my teacher, that was what he taught. And I met him as I was getting sober.
Ah,
So it's all tied together. It's all intrinsically interwoven, you know.
and I think your work up until the point you got sober was on the stage. Were you already doing TV?
Oh
Were you
no, in fact,
already?
I got my first TV gig, my SAG card job, the day my mother died. That happened, and so in fact,
Wow.
I wrote a piece about that uh, that's included in the other solo piece that I'm writing now.
Okay, so now we have to segue into that. So, okay, so I want to talk about showing up,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
which I watched the first time with my daughter, who was studying to be an actress. Then she was in Tisch, and she
Okay, yeah.
was at Atlantic and being an actress. She's now in law school, actually, and betrothed. She just got engaged,
Oh,
and
congratulations.
but yes, going to law school had a quite, but because she got out of Tisch in the middle of a pandemic and there were no auditions. There were no auditions.
Right.
There were no
Right.
projects. There was nothing when
And
she
well, they couldn't even
graduated.
work together, could they?
There was nothing going on. So, but in any case, so I watched it with her the first time as somebody who I had given that part of my life up completely. I was doing this, right? And now, just before Christmas, an agent found me and said, "Oh, you're perfect. I want to send you out." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I couldn't remember the line of dialogue of you. And who's going to want like a middle, an old lady with feathers in their hair? And no, this is great. We're going to do this. So I have an agent for like the first time in my life.
Beautiful.
Anyway, and so now I watch your movie showing up about auditioning with a whole new set of glasses.
Right.
Mortifying to remember what it's like. And I will remind you again that Stephen Spinella and I went to college together and were
Oh,
in
okay.
many classrooms together. And
Beautiful man.
yes, and his last bit in the film, there were the last three pieces. I think they were all crying. I know I was crying watching them, and I believe they were kind of all tearing up as they
Yeah,
were saying them.
they accessed their humanity, didn't they?
Wow. I mean, okay, so now I want to ask you, so showing up. So tell us first about showing up, and then we'll talk about your personal experiences.
Okay,
What made you and Riyadh make this film?
the idea first came to me when I was working in San Diego at the Old Globe, and I was talking to Tom Lacey, who's in the showing up, character actor, lovely man, and he told me this harrowing but hilarious audition story while we were sitting there in our tights and waiting to in the green room, and I laughed, and it was moving, and I went, wow, he's such a good storyteller. We all, wouldn't that be great to like maybe do a book or some kind of a, I didn't even think it would be I didn't even think movie. I just thought audition stories. And so that then it just sort of sat there and germinated for few years. I mean, this was 85. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, almost 20 years.
Wow.
And when I finally came down to making a movie, I said, let's make a movie. We've made a couple of movies. Let's do a documentary. We would talk to these actors. They're great storytellers. So we went into this thing sort of blindly, not really knowing what the story was going to be, what the narrative through line was going to be, until we went to New York and met Stephen. We met Jack O'Brien. Um,
Nathan Lane.
well, the first trip to New York
Oh,
was
ah.
was Stephen and Yule Vasquez and Kristen Chenoweth and but
Mhm.
BD Wong.
Oh, such stories.
But when we sat and started talking to them, and all of a sudden, uh, they started really revealing their deepest feelings about this thing. And Stephen went where he went, and we looked at all this footage when we got home. We did 2 trips to New York, and had a couple of sessions in LA. And when they revealed themselves so deeply and so honestly and truthfully, and they just were naked, they ripped out their hearts. The Stones song. Uh, I know it's only rock and roll, but I like it. That's sort of they just tore out their hearts and said, "Here it is. Do with that what you will." And we felt a responsibility to go deep, and so uh, we tried to make create an environment for them to be able to do that. But some could and some couldn't.
Mm.
And it would have been too much to have everybody do that.
Yeah, yeah. Some of them were much more emotional and really.
Yeah, yeah. And then some, we needed the humor. We needed somebody to be, to say, okay, here's the deal. This is what it is. I love it or I hate it. Uh, uh, Chris Messina went there. Uh, 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 Christopher Maloney gave
He,
us a whole, you know what I
oh
mean?
my God, his
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. They I mean, I'm only singling them out because I'm doing I think
Isn't
everybody would.
Christopher Maloney the one who
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
his story has a lot of
And
this?
then we had they had the old timers like Eli Wallach and Pat Hingle, and who had this distance from it in
Mhm,
their age and experience, and
mhm.
and, in their sagacity, and they were able to say, but you could see underneath it, yeah, it's bullshit.
Although Eli Wallach's story was very.
Oh yeah, yeah. And Pat's too, when he's talked about how long
Mhm,
he had the line went up here and it went down here and it
mhm,
went over here and and then so you waited. You were there all day and you went,
mhm.
and then or walking into the offices and saying, into the producer's office, and they look at you and go, yeah, there's nothing for you today. And he goes, well, how the hell do you know? You've never even seen me act. What do you so but they had a distance on it from, there was a wisdom or something. I don't know. I mean, then there were people that we interviewed that, and I'm not going to name names because I don't want to,
Mhm,
they weren't willing to be revealing at all. And in fact, a
mhm,
dear friend of mine that was a friend, we could not find anything that spoke to where we had decided to go with the film. It was more
mhm,
how to audition, and I was going to say, when you mentioned your daughter at Tisch, we took it and showed it to students at the NYU. And a lot of them really got it. I mean, like you did, they got
mhm.
but there were some of them who said, well, how come there's not more about how to do it, how to get,
Oh.
how to get the job? Because they're not, I don't know, they're not getting that in school. How can they teach that?
Mhm,
You can't. You have
mhm.
to do it.
And they haven't lived life and they don't know what those feelings are, that they don't know
No,
that they don't know all that stuff yet.
no. And they want what's the trick? What are they, how do you,
Mm,
we just said, we don't know. Nobody knows.
mm.
If we knew, we could bottle it and sell it, you
So
know?
James, since the pandemic, and I mean, everything was self-tape for now. Somebody just wrote on Facebook, "Oh boy, I just did my first live audition."
Oh,
Um,
right.
how do you feel about, are you auditioning? Are you are you live auditioning? Are you self-tape
Oh, no.
auditioning? Are you not auditioning? Are you?
No, I'm not. Well, I'm in Ojai, so I don't. I stopped live auditioning um, 12 years ago. Really, I mean, a couple of times I would come down, depending on who
Mhm,
it was and what it was.
mhm, mhm.
Uh,
I
a
mean,
couple.
first of all, the thought that you have to audition at all at this point is absurd, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
speaking of humility and
Mhm.
um, I don't know. I mean, there are rooms that I can't, I don't, I'd rather not go into, um, actually,
Hmm.
because, I don't know. I'm just sort of waiting for the right thing. I pass on a lot of stuff that I read because I've done it and been there, and I don't want,
Hmm.
but I have an audition, that I have to get in tomorrow that is really, really a good project. And it's, I can't multitask like I used to. I don't know how you feel about that, but, um, I can't, for instance, I'm learning my lines. I'm learning to play so I can do it in April again.
Hmm.
And I get an audition and I can't do both things. Like,
Well, somebody was saying in the film that I can't do two auditions in one
oh,
day.
Margot Martindale, yeah,
Yeah, I can't do that. I can't
no,
be
it's
both
great.
these people.
Yeah.
I can't.
But when we were young, it was no big deal. Yeah, I'll be that. I'll do in the afternoon. I'll be that. Then in the evening, I'll go do the play.
Hmm.
There was no, but anymore, you need to focus. That's why, when you asked me to do, the song, and I went, oh my God, working on my play. I play the guitar. It's like, I mean, I try to pick it up and I noodle and but I don't, I have to spend,
I get it.
you know,
I get it.
I can't just like I used to frit around from thing to thing
Okay,
and,
so how the hell, I'm really curious about this. How do you, at this stage of life, how do you learn lines? Do you have a trick? Do you have a
yeah.
system? How the hell do you do it?
Oh, it's, you know,
Over
study,
and over and over and over and over. I mean,
study,
like, what do you
study and
do?
repetition. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And in fact, it took me 5 months when I did it in Great Barrington. It's an hour and 20 minutes. It took me 5 months, and then 2 weeks of rehearsal, I got line notes and line notes. The ASM came in and worked with me for, an hour before rehearsal. I mean, it was, yeah, hard.
That has to be, okay, so how about for an audition? Okay, so you have sides. Now, Zoe was saying that she had to learn 20 pages for I'm
No,
not gonna learn 20 pages for an
we had a
audition. What are
strike
you
about
kidding
that.
me? What?
We had a strike about that. When was this?
It's in your film that she learned 20
Oh yeah, see,
pages
that was,
for,
well, yeah, that was before the, uh,
come on,
oh
get
no, I
out
mean,
of here.
that's why we struck. You can't. And then they say, yeah, it's due on, you get it at 6 p.m. And yeah, so tomorrow afternoon, and they give you 16 pages, and you go, I'm just kidding. Well, but then, part of that, since we're talking about this, is our need to for perfection. We have to, oh, I got to be memorized. Oh no, you don't. It's a reading. I mean, if you memorize what you can memorize, but don't beat yourself up about this. I always say, they're not looking for memorizers. They're looking for the person that they wrote.
I don't know who it is I think was he casting director or director? Somebody in the film says, if this is your part, you're going to
Oh,
get it. It
it
doesn't
was
matter how much preparation you
yeah,
do.
it was Yule,
And
Yule
you and
Vasquez.
yeah, and if it's not, it doesn't matter how much you do, you're not getting it.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
I believe that.
It's right. And but they're looking for, and then, there are people who would disagree, and that's okay. It sort of, I think, this approach takes the pressure off you,
Mhm.
and it takes the distractions, because your job is to be that person in those circumstances.
I also love what you said the last time you were on. You were talking about being of service.
Yeah.
Didn't you talk
That's
about that? Being of service to the character, being of service to the project, and
yeah. Okay. I've got a great story for that, actually. I,
great,
I think it's great. It's so great that I'm going to repeat it for the,
good.
fifth time. Um, and it's long enough ago that I think I can say this. I was, have a casting director friend, that I love dearly, uh, Deb Zane. She's in the movie. She's like a sister of mine. We used to be next door neighbors. She, asked Riad and I to help her cast this thing once. And so we had to big screen test to find the lead in a major motion picture, uh, A-list director, full costume on the soundstage, screen test. So we spent 2 days with the director,
Hmm.
um, working with each actor. One day working with one actor, and then they do both of them. And there was a point in the thing when the director would say he would refer to me as the character's name. And at one point, I was, my ego started to, you know, I'd lost control of my humility, and I thought, wait a minute, I want to. Why isn't he calling me Why isn't he calling me by my name? I want him to know my name. And then I went, man, check yourself. You are this character, and he's referring to you as this character because that's who you are
Mm.
in this
Right.
story.
Mm.
That's your job. And not only that, your job is to be of service to this story, this director, and this other actor. And if I and I mean that was like a lightning bolt. Now I'd had glimpses of that, but not like this. Because you always think, yeah, we got to go be here, be of service to the story. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get it. I get it. God, I want this. Oh my God, I can pay my rent. I can buy whatever. Well, none of that stuff came in. I just went, okay. Now from that point on, I go in to be of service to these people. They're looking for this character. I'm going to show them how I can do it. If you want me, this is what you're going to get. I try to be as accurate as I can to the character and the circumstances, and not try to be clever and interesting and all that
Hmm.
actor stuff. I want to be that guy. I want to be that
Right.
so that they can go, wow, he was that guy. He was Jake. He wasn't James. He was Jake. And we're looking for a Jake. Let's use him. That's being of service.
The best compliment you can have is as you're walking out the door for them to call you by the character name rather than your own, right? That's like the greatest compliment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what it's so confusing when people say, well, that's just the character. I mean, that actor just, all he does is himself. You go, man, that's the hardest thing to do, to make it look to be believable. And yeah, character actors are fun to watch them chew the scenery or whatever. But it's only interesting for a minute. We want to be drawn into the story completely and forget that we're watching, you know, an actor. We just saw this amazing um, Anatomy of a Fall. Have you
Oh
seen,
gosh.
oh my God.
She's
Oh, the whole
unbelievable.
cast, the whole
Yeah, the
cast.
whole cat, the little boy, they're
The
all
little, oh
amazing.
my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
And the same with Past Lives.
Past lives also. Loved
I mean,
it.
that killed me. I was like at the end of it, I was blubbering.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and they were those people. They weren't,
Hmm.
we weren't watching actors anymore. I thought I was
Hmm.
watching these people.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
in fact, speaking of Deb, I was talking to her the other day. We were talking about this, and she said, the best compliment you can give an actor, like you said, is you go, wow, that's that person. I don't even, is that a, like, and I said, that's so funny you should say that, because remember when I said to you at the first time I watched um, the Larry David show,
Sure.
Curb Your Enthusiasm, the first season, first time I'd seen it, I called you up and I said, and you said, do you love, she said to me, do you love it? And I said, oh my God. And I can't believe that his manager is such a good actor. And she said, what? I said, yeah, the guy who's his manager. I mean, and she said, no, no, that's Jeff Garland. He's an actor. And I said, what? Oh my God. I thought he was,
Oh, you thought Jeff was his real life manager?
yeah. I mean, I didn't know his
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I believed him absolutely. I bought him
Right.
as Larry David's manager.
Right.
And he was so but that's what we're talking about, right?
Right, right. Absolutely. All right. So speaking of actors,
Yeah.
how about this guy that's got more than half the country believing that he is a worthy candidate to be um it's how long ago did you write Selfish Man? When did you write it? What was going on? What in
I wrote it, well, I wrote, I know this is insane. I've written two songs about this phenomenon of which you speak, um, embodied in this specific person. And the first one I wrote was I Don't Know You, which was right in 2016, And I think I wrote Selfish Man 2 years later, 3 years. We got a taste of what he was, there. And I don't know. I'm kind of embarrassed to admit that this uh, personality has inspired me to write music about it. But wherever wherever you get it, right? Wherever it,
Yeah,
with
and it's also we're watching Fargo right now, don't you know? And it's so Coen Brothers. You know that, right? You've heard this before. Like it's
the latest Fargo.
well,
Oh,
yeah,
Fargo, the movie.
well, we're watching the series. We watched the movie again, and now we're watching the whole series. We're on the last season now,
Oh, okay.
and but the Coen Brothers, the feeling about and the music though from I Am the Man. What
Oh,
that was
oh,
from
oh,
Brother
brother, where
Where
art
Art
thou?
Thou?
Yeah.
Your song could be like right, it's
Yeah.
very much has a Coen Brothers kind of feeling. I want them to hear it. They have to hear it and use it
Well,
in
it's in the same
something.
key, so it's it's
And
close.
it's
Yeah, it does have that, and we had that kind of feeling when we recorded it for sure.
and with the girls singing in the background,
Yep.
like that whole thing.
Yeah,
But anyway, it's just a brilliant song. And what's so frightening about it is that it keeps being relevant, which is just seems impossible to me that this can be so.
it's kind of unbelievable. Yeah,
So this is my question to you that
yeah.
I'm asking people. Do you do you believe that he could get elected again?
Well, I didn't believe he could the first time, so I said that, and
Mhm.
I was wrong. Um, so
Knowing what you know.
I'm gonna have to say I don't know.
Mhm.
I mean, back to our
Mhm.
discussion,
I
but
might be wrong.
well, um,
Mhm.
because I mean nobody knows.
Mhm.
So much is going to happen,
Mhm.
and but knowing what we know,
Mhm.
there are things we know.
Mhm.
Knowing what we know, it's unfucking believable that he would be
It's
to me.
it's unbelievable that he could be the leading candidate with what's going on, that he is,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, it's taken so many people by, uh, it's just, I mean, I hate to, I don't know if you've noticed that I stopped sort of publicly, um, expressing my opinion about things
You've
like,
been expressing much more benign things, I've noticed,
yeah,
much more general
yeah.
things. Yeah.
Well, because well, first of all, I mean, I'm going to alienate people, uh, probably even with benign things. I mean, but I
Yeah.
have alienated quite a few people, I left Twitter because I just went, wow, I can't deal with this. And I lurk on Twitter now just to sort of see every once in a while what's being said there, and it's insanity. I mean, it's insane.
Mhm.
I saw a joke the other day. In fact, I think I put it up. It was the conspiracy theory awards, and there's two guys on stage, and one's handing them the conspiracy theory award, and there are two people in the audience, and it's taken from behind them, and one guy's leaning over to the other one, and he says, "This is rigged." You just go, that's the basis of uh, that's their platform is
Mhm.
everything is rigged, everything is a threat, everything is uh, nothing is as it seems, um, and everyone's out to get us.
Well, what can we get people to believe? What bullshit can we say and get everybody to get behind and believe? Because I don't think he believes a word of what he said, although I don't know. Do crazy people believe their own bullshit? I mean, maybe he does. I don't
Well,
know.
listen, it's his job. He's a fundraiser. He's a carnival barker.
Hmm.
He's raising money.
Hmm.
He'll say whatever he has to say and sell
But in the
whatever.
dark of night, does he really believe his own
Oh,
bullshit? Do you think?
who knows? I mean, clearly he didn't because he admitted that he lost.
Mhm.
And people have said, he said to me, he knew that he lost. But if you say that, then people are going to freak out because they're counting on you to
Off with their heads. All
pop
right,
up.
James, let's hear the song.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay.
This is truly one of my favorite songs. I must have sent it to 20 people in the last 12 hours.
Selfish man.
I love this. I love this song so much. I wish there wasn't a person it was written about, but I love the song so much.
Well,
Here we go.
could be about a lot of people. Could be about most of the people that I'm a selfish man. Don't you know? I take credit for the morning when I crow. I take what I want. I don't borrow. I drink tears. I eat sorrow. I'm a selfish man. I will prevail. I don't like to buy things. I like to make a sale. Don't like to be told. I like to tell a tale. If you succeed, then I have failed. I have cruel intent. I cut like a knife. I will raise your rent. I will steal your wife. I sow discontent every day of my life. I'm a selfish man. I'm a selfish man. I'm self-made. I take credit for the plan, long as it's well laid. I'm underappreciated. I'm underpaid. Give me loyalty, you'll be betrayed. I'm a heartless lover, ungrateful son. I'm a greedy brother. I'm a hit and run. I have no honor. I'm a thieving crook. I'm a one and done. Baby, I wrote the book. He's a selfish man. You can't tell by how he talks about himself. As if he's not there, it's all about him. Nothing else. He's a selfish man. He's a selfish man. He's a selfish man.
Oh, it never loses its charm. Oh my God. Did that come to you? Did that come quickly? It sounds like something that, did you labor over that or did it come quickly?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the main idea came pretty quickly, and then
The
writing is a
fine
process.
tuning always
I
takes
mean,
time, of course.
yeah. I don't know. I read about these. I remember this great story about the Leonard Cohen Dylan story about how long it took Leonard Cohen to write Hallelujah. You remember that story?
No, I don't think I know that story.
Because they were talking, and Leonard Cohen asked him about Dylan about a song, and he said, "Yeah, no, I wrote that in about 10 minutes." And I forget which song it was. I know one of his many masterpieces. How long did it take you to write Hallelujah? And it was years. It took him years. And
Mm.
you know, I mean, the real deal is that I sort of feel like I've never felt imposter syndrome as an actor. I always feel like I'm where I ought to be, doing what you know. But I do feel that when I play and sing, I feel like somebody's going to discover me and go, "Hey, man, you know, you're not really a, you know, I don't know."
Sorry, I'm having a post-COVID
Yeah.
coughing and sneezing attack here. But I was rolling my eyes when you said you've never felt the imposter as an actor. I've felt the imposter at everything I've ever done in my life, I think at times. Maybe not. Maybe not. I don't feel an imposter when I do this,
Oh no.
but probably pretty much everything else I've ever
I think
done.
it comes. I think it comes with the territory. There's insecurity. Everybody has insecurities. I have I really every time I sing a song that I've written or whatever, I always feel like I really have to psych myself into playing a role of okay, I'm playing the role of a singer-songwriter now instead of just doing it like this is just what I do, you know.
Have you ever written have you ever written yourself a part? I challenge you to write a piece where you get to be a musician and put your stuff in there and
Oh,
sing and
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, sort of like what's that the Jeff Bridges movie? Yeah, something like that.
Kind of like that.
What's it called?
Um, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. He won the Academy Award for it.
yes, he did.
So memorable. No, he was so great in that.
He was so memorable, but
Somebody who's watching this shoot
somebody, Tony, you're going to tell us what the name of that movie was because Tony's watching and
Crazy
she's,
Heart.
thank you, Crazy Heart. Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
something like
yeah. I
that.
mean, sure. Okay.
Okay, so now before we go, you're going to treat us to an original something it's a work in progress. Is it finished? Is it
Okay. Thanks. Yeah. I'm gonna do for my next piece.
my
Uh,
next number?
um, I'm working on it's called Satan's Wild Animal Circus of Agony.
Wait, what?
Satan's Wild Animal Circus of Agony, a five-ring memoir.
Wow.
So there are five short pieces.
Okay,
This is one of the shortest ones. Autobiographical stuff because I that's what I do.
right.
Unless I write, songs about existential threats to
A selfish man. Yes.
yeah. This is called My Father's Heart,
Okay.
and I'm going to put this right here. You can probably see my little stand and
I
my
can
cute.
see your little stand.
Okay, My Father's Heart. This is one of the pieces. The piece about my mother it involves. It's called The Clown Motel. Another piece I wrote called the title piece, of course, Satan's Wild Animal Circus of Agony, about when I ran away and joined the circus when I was 22.
Oh God, I wanted to do it the same thing right at
Yeah,
that
did
same
you?
age. Did you do Ringling Brothers?
No, I applied and they they didn't accept me to the clown school. So I said, okay, I'm going to go to the mud show. And I went to Carson Barnes' Wild Animal Circus.
Wow. We're gonna have to
Yeah.
talk about this one day because I wanted to
Yeah.
join the circus too. Okay.
And the other piece is called Cheese Sickness, about when I was a serial killer in a play at La Jolla
Wait, wait,
Play.
wait. A cheese sickness? Wait, what?
Yeah, cheese sickness, and the Chinese life force. Basically, it's like prana.
I thought you
Cheese.
were saying cheese. Okay, cheese
No, I
sickness.
have
Gotcha.
cheese sickness. Yeah, I definitely do.
Okay. Cheese sickness.
I'm a cheese.
Gotcha.
My name's James. I'm a cheeseaholic. Okay, but this one is called My Father's Heart. This was the first one I wrote of the five. In 1971, I was 17, and I could not wait to get out of my parents' house. They were both sober finally after years of days of wine and roses madness, and remarried after 14 years of being divorced and shuffling me back and forth between them and various relatives while they were thousands of miles apart. My four older siblings were grown and gone. They couldn't wait to get out either. Mom had custody of me and my little brother, and he always stayed with her or a big sister while I was away. While I was sent away to Alaska to live with my dad because she couldn't handle me during the worst bouts with her disease. That's when I learned I was incorrigible, which is a trait that I still lapse into occasionally, but in a good way. Although I loved them and my parents were kind and generous in their sobriety and living their amends, getting out of their house was my main ambition in life. It felt like a life or death mission. I was ungrateful in my pursuit of freedom and blind to everything they were doing for me. A big part of it was that we lived in a trailer. I couldn't forgive my father for not buying what I considered a real home for his family, one like my friends had, one that had a foundation instead of sitting up on blocks under the axles with insulated wooden skirting all around it. To me, that symbolized a man who is not grounded, unsure of his status in the world, a man lacking the ability to commit, and I judged him harshly for that. Of course, it doesn't symbolize any such thing. Men like that live in all kinds of places, and honorable people live in mobile homes. I didn't judge the character of all people who chose to live in them, just my father, because he was my father. And he would have had those character defects no matter where he lived. He was a recovering alcoholic. These are symptoms of the disease. They follow us around no matter where we live. And he was recovering from them to the best of his ability. It was me. I hated living in my own skin. My soul had no foundation. I was a practicing alcoholic. I would have had those character defects no matter where I lived too. And I did. One day he and I had a huger than average argument. I don't even remember what it was about. It doesn't matter. I was a miserable little prick and he had reached his limit. I stormed out of the house and slammed the door. Fuck you and everything you are, I screamed from the driveway. I'm out of here for good. I've been dying to leave and I'm gone, man. He threw open the door and shouted, "You get back here right now. You're not leaving this house." Why he chose to say that, of all things, I'll never know. You'd think he'd be grateful I was leaving, but I wasn't finished. "You're a chicken shit," I said. "You've always been a chicken shit. You're a chicken shit now, and you're a goddamn chicken shit." The look on his face, it's burned into my memory. I was immediately sorry I said it, but the insufferable punk that I was wouldn't let me back down. I could see the shocked faces of our neighbors peeking through the trailer windows at us. My dad was stricken, but he tried to hide it. He ran his smooth palm over the skin of his bald head as though trying to squeeze his brain into remembering a life before his fifth child was the meanest person he ever met. His anger red face turned ashen. I could see what little joy for life he had being sucked out of him into the gray Alaskan sky by a flaming funnel cloud of raging teenage hormones. Chicken shit was the worst thing I could have called him, which is exactly why I did it. I knew he felt the same way about himself. He slowly turned away from me and retreated into the trailer, a tiny, broken man, without even the strength to shut the door. I huffed over to a friend's house to smoke some pot and drink some beer to calm down. I knew I'd hurt my dad. I was nearly weeping with guilt and anger, but I hated myself too much to cry. A few hours passed before I got up the nerve to call home and apologize. My little brother picked up the phone. Can you get Dad for me, please? He's not here. The ambulance took him. Mom went with him. He had a heart attack. Oh, God, no. I killed my dad. Which hospital? Presbyterian. I jumped up, stoned as hell, and ran the 3 miles across Anchorage to the hospital. They wouldn't let me in to see him because he was in the ICU, but I found my mom and wept and held her and told her how sorry I was. It's all my fault. I made his heart go out. No, you didn't, honey. Yes, I did. I gave him a heart attack. How can I live with myself? The tortured artist slash rebel without a clue persona I'd been cultivating had morphed into full-blown drama queen. The nurses were having none of it. They insisted I leave. I ran out the building, weeping into the parking lot into the park across the street, where I smoked cigarettes and cried till myself to sleep on the grass that smelled like urine. I woke up with the sun dripping wet, sat up bleary-eyed to see a man about 20 feet away with his pants down around his knees, stumbling toward me, laughing maniacally. Then he puked. I had died, and I was in hell for patricide. My punishment was an eternity of naked, drunken, puking perverts tormenting me for ripping my father's heart out of his chest. I ran back to the hospital and they let me in to see him. He opened his eyes to find me holding his hand. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry. I'm the chicken shit. It's me who's the coward, not you. It's okay, son, he said. I know you love me. I love you too. That'll never change, no matter what. It turns out he'd been having heart attacks regularly for a couple of weeks. Some would even take him to his knees while he was shaving in the morning before going to the office. He'd just grit his teeth, clench his fists till it passed. He'd suck it up, get off the floor, go to work. He didn't tell anyone because that's how men from the World War II generation were. That's how they were brave. They kept silent about what hurt, even if it was killing them. I never fought with him again, not even so much as a mild disagreement. Miraculously, he lived 10 more years. In 1981, he died of congestive heart failure sitting in his Barcalounger after dinner in his trailer while he was watching MASH on TV. We talked on the phone the day before. His last words were, I love you, son. Lay off the beer. You've only got one body, Jim. Take care of it. He was 65, the year he was going to retire and spend the rest of his life fly fishing in Wyoming. I was 3,000 miles away and drunk when my mom called to tell me that he died. I quit drinking a year and a half later at 28. It took me a few years of sobriety to finally understand I'd been living my amends to him since that day I called him a chicken shit, and I didn't need to feel guilty anymore. He knew we were a lot alike, but unlike me, who hated what I saw of myself in him, he loved what he saw of himself in me, and he forgave me for it. He'd want me to forgive myself for it too, because he loved me, and that'll never change, no matter what. It's a miracle how the heart works, even a sick one, how it learns, how it heals, and how it forgives. A miracle.
Wow. Oh my God. I wrote down a line, James. He loved what he saw of himself in me. Oh, this is such an incredible piece. Will you do me a favor, please, and will you send me the name of this play because I will never get it right.
Okay, yeah.
But please send it to me so that I can get it right, and please send me the name of this piece. Wow.
Thank you.
And what a beautiful thing that you have peace with your amends with your dad and your, what a beautiful thing.
Thank
Not a
you.
lot of people get to have that. And then to be able to articulate it like this and to turn it into art is a beautiful thing. It's a
Thank you.
beautiful piece. It's a beautiful piece.
Thanks, Vicky.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for your
sharing it
reading.
with us. Huh. I feel so honored that you shared it with us. I started to say, I think I said, this is the first time that you were reading it for an audience. Yes?
I read it for a few people at the little group we have up here once a month, and I'm reading them 7 pages at a time. But yeah, but I mean, yeah, uh, for a larger audience, you bet. Yeah, you bet.
Well, just I'm honored and thrilled that you did it. And um, as I said at the top of the show, um, it means the world to have this kind of show to honor Christinna, who Christinna Guzman, who was all about women who write and all about art and sharing it, and was such a supporter of artists and musicians and writers, um, and I'm so um, thrilled that Seamus is living his best life and having this full, wonderful life and free of this. Um,
You are so beautiful. The platform and the that you give uh, us, people that you have connected with from the heart, is the greatest gift that you can offer somebody, I'll always be grateful to you for this. What is this now? 4 or 5 and I came to your house twice.
oh, at least, yeah. I don't
I
know.
was
I
there
stopped
I was
in.
there that time with Lainey Kazan.
Oh my God. Lainey is my mother's like best friend now.
Oh my
They
God,
live
she
in
is
the
a
same
force.
place.
I fell in
I
love with
forgot
her.
about you being there with Lainey. But the most historic, James, was when you came with Ed Asner and
But
Bob
Asner,
Cowsill.
yeah,
Oh my God.
wow,
It was amazing to have Lainey in my living room singing. That was
yeah,
incredible. But that day with you and Ed and Bob
yeah, I know.
Cowsill,
I know.
oh my God.
Yeah, I love it. I love him. I love him. I think about him. We worked together before that. We did a movie of the week or something up in Portland. That's when I met him.
Wow.
He was amazing. Yeah, and then what? I've talked to you a couple of times here. Once here. I think this is the fourth time.
This is the third Zoom we've done, I think. This is the
Really?
third, this is maybe at least the second Zoom, but we did this live
Yeah, yeah,
before.
yeah,
Yeah, we've
yeah.
chatted a
So,
few times.
but I mean that about opening your heart like this and facilitating this. I mean, you're so good at it. It's not, and that's not easy
Hmm.
to bring people that you admire and love and want to share. Like, here's my friend, and he's gonna, I mean, it's a beautiful, loving space, and I know anybody who's
Thank
ever
you.
watched it, but certainly the people who have been with you in this environment. I think I speak for everybody. It's one of the greatest gifts we've ever received.
Thank you.
Seriously.
I appreciate that
So
very
thank you.
much. I can't wait to see you for real. It's going to take a trip up to Ojai, which is long needed, and uh, please let me know and I'll let everybody know when this is going to get to maybe the Ojai Underground. The leave your fears at the door so that people
Oh,
can leave your fears here,
yeah,
so that
yeah,
people
yeah.
can leave their fears here and walk in and
Yeah, thank you.
experience
I'll let
that
you
with
know.
you. And I look forward to meeting Riyadh and Seamus. I would love to meet Seamus as well. How
We'll work that
fabulous.
out. We'll do that. Let me know when we'll talk. We'll
Okay,
figure it out.
excellent. Thanks so much, James.
Thank you,
Have a
Vicky. I love you.